All right. Hey, everybody. Thank you for joining me and my guest, Michael Compton, on another episode of Mission Briefing. Today, we have a very interesting episode. We're going to take a look at data management with Dgraph. I will save the explanation of what Dgraph is for Michael because I'm not super familiar. But I'm Kurt Kemple. I'm a dev advocate at Apollo. And then, yeah, I'm going to hand it off to you, Michael. Yeah.
Yeah, g'day. I'm really excited to be here doing this stream. Yeah, I think it's going to be fun for a couple of hours.
Oh, yeah.
So, I was just saying, I think what we should do is probably just talk a bit about what Dgraph is, and then we'll kind of move towards just starting to build a GraphQL app with Dgraph. So the first part, I think we just need to kind of explain what Dgraph is,
Yeah.
how it works, a little bit of the history,
Yeah.
and then we'll get into some coding in the end.
You had me at
Uh,
coding. I love it.
I gu- I guess one of the reasons I want to do the Dgraph bit at the start is sometimes when introducing Dgraph, I do the coding bit first, which kind of works really nicely because you get this really nice experience where you start with just GraphQL and suddenly you're just writing code and you get an app,
Yeah.
which is a really cool kind of GraphQL experience.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
then it kind of leads to these sort of obvious questions of, well, what's this thing underneath? And there's a little bit of magic going on here, and maybe I missed a step or something. So I think we'll go to the tech first, and then do the coding. Also, just going to apologise. I'm cold where I am. It's early morning, frosty. I've got my beanie on. I might remove that later on as it warms up. We'll just see how it goes.
All hats welcome on the stream.
Yeah. So let's start with what Dgraph is. So
Yeah.
unlike unlike many things, Dgraph is actually exactly what it says on the tin. The D stands for distributed, and the graph stands for graph database. So Dgraph is a native distributed graph database that we write from the disk all the way up to the top level, the query and interface.
Okay.
So um, often when we talk about Dgraph, people sort of ask questions about, well, what's the database sitting underneath this, or is this got a relational database or something under the hood? Is it some sort of translation layer or something? And the first sort of point is, no, it's not. It's not that. It's start to finish GraphQL database. Its native data storage is nodes and edges. So if you think in a GraphQL sense, if you had like a type of authors and authors have got posts or something, in the end, you're going to get a graph where there's nodes that are authors, and those nodes will be connected by edges to the posts that they've made, and then maybe to their friends and whatever else. And so its native storage mechanism is very much nodes and connections between those nodes to other nodes. Maybe if we go to, well, you've got the Dgraph homepage up here.
Yeah.
Maybe we could skip to GitHub. So if you go to you can even just search in Google for Dgraph at GitHub or something.
Yeah. Let's do it.
So Dgraph's open source all the way down.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, go there.
So first things look first. Let me blow this up a little bit so it's legible, and I'm gonna just copy this link and drop it here in the chat. And then of course, boop, gotta start it.
Yeah, we need another one. So there's a couple of projects. If you click on dgraph.io, there's a whole bunch of projects that live in the Dgraph organization. So I'm just going to highlight. Sorry, if you just go to the Dgraph organization.
Oh, Dgraph organization. Sorry, I was like,
Yeah.
click the link
There's
back
a
to the
whole
website.
project in here. So Dgraph is the database itself. Sitting underneath the database is Badger, the one in the top middle there, which is our own key value store, which is the underlying disk mechanism. So
Okay.
it's a bit. Some people might have heard of things like RocksDB or something like that. Badger is our own Go key value store, which is the underlying sort of disk layer of Dgraph.
Yeah.
And then sitting on top of Badger is Dgraph itself. And Badger's its own project because it's actually sort of widely used by other people who, if you click on the Badger link, there's a whole bunch of other projects that have picked Badger up and use it as the key value store for their own stuff. So if you scroll down somewhere in the README, a little bit lower, there's a whole bunch of other projects that build on top of Badger as well.
Oh, cool. Here's getting started.
Yeah.
Transactions.
Way down the bottom, I
Read
think.
right. Yeah. Scroll.
Yeah.
Watch this.
So Dgraph
Boop.
distribute transactions, maybe just up a little bit. There's a whole list of other people who build on top of Badger as well. How far up is it?
Oh, here we go. Found it.
Just there we go. There's a whole bunch
Riot.
of projects.
Everybody.
Things. on top of Badger as well. So Badger is just a key value store written in Go, really fast disk layer access. And then on top of that, we write this distributed graph database.
Got it.
So the point of, so let's just kind of pick apart the D and the graph from Dgraph. So the graph bit, as I said, means that Dgraph natively stores a graph. So it natively stores nodes and edges and connections in the graph. And the distributed bit means that it's natively kind of scalable in a really nice way. So you can have a single node Dgraph, which is just sort of one machine, one database, or you can say, oh, I'm getting loads of requests. I need to replicate this to 3 more instances and put like a load balancer or something in front of it. And then Dgraph will operate as a cluster and distribute the data around the cluster and run distributed transactions and all sort of stuff like that. But you can also shard the data. So you can shard your graph across multiple instances as well. So as your data is too big to fit on one machine, you can shard the data across multiple machines, and Dgraph will still handle the distributed transactions and all the rest. So the point of the distributed bit is scale. So Dgraph's a native graph database that provides you this massive scale beyond one instance quickly.
Yeah.
So that's the sort of 5-minute intro to Dgraph, and then the kind of obvious question is, well, what's that got to do with GraphQL? There's this little historical intertwining between Dgraph and GraphQL. So way back when GraphQL, way back,
a long time ago.
Just a few years ago, when GraphQL was first open sourced, was pretty much exactly the same time as Dgraph's founder was building the first versions of Dgraph.
Oh, wow.
And for his graph database, he actually gave a really nice talk about this at GraphQL Asia just a few months ago, if you want to look at Manish's talk from GraphQL Asia. And the point is that looking for a way to query this new graph database he's building and a way to represent the results. And along with there's a bunch of other graph databases in the world, but one interesting thing that he picked up on about this new technology, GraphQL, which isn't, it's not designed as a query language for a graph database, but it has a couple of really cool properties. So along with the whole ecosystem and types and all this fun stuff you get with GraphQL, there's 2 kind of fundamental things that make it fun for a database. And one of them is that the query language is really just an exploration of the graph traversal you want to do in your query. Yeah. So you can kind of look at a GraphQL query and go, oh, you've gone from the author to their posts to all the people who've liked the posts or something. And it's a really structural explanation of how I'm walking through my graph.
Yeah.
And that's a little different to lots of other, for example, graph query languages. Some of them have got like a bit of an SQL heritage. So they look a bit more like joins, whereas GraphQL has got this really, really nice sort of, it's like an explanation of what you're doing. And the other cool thing about GraphQL is that the result is so consumable. Like, if you're working in, like JavaScript, it's just, you've just got it. Yeah. But in any other language, the worst it can be is just like JSON.unmarshal for whatever your JSON library is. And you just unmarshal it into your local data structures and you're off.
For sure.
And so those 2 properties mean that as a language for a graph database, it's a really neat way to A, ask your queries, and B, get an instantly consumable result. And so what happened was that Dgraph started out with a query language that was based on GraphQL and that returned GraphQL-like results. And that lots of our users really like that, whether you're writing in Go or Java or whatever language you're consuming the graph database in. Those 2 properties make it quite fun as a developer. There's no heavy lifting to either get to the database or get the result out of the database.
Yeah, for sure.
And then what kind of happened with Dgraph to sort of complete the story from then to now is that we added lots of stuff to that original starting point that make it more like a database language and a little bit less like sort of spec compliant GraphQL. So there's all kinds of fun things in Dgraph, like you can, as you're doing a query, you can do computations in the graph, you can collect variables other places in the graph. So you can have like multiple query blocks that have variables in them, and then they're kind of like you can sort of join them later on. And so you can sort of do joins across different parts of your graph. You can also do things like you can write like upsert queries where it'll do like a query and do some of that stuff, do some kind of computation or whatever, and then upsert a mutation in the one request. So you've got a whole bunch of really cool database features.
Yeah.
They're not those sort of don't fit into like the spec compliant GraphQL thing. So one of the things that's happening at Dgraph now is that we've got this really cool database. It's got all these really powerful graph database features. But one of the things we want to try and do is expose it more and more in ways that are really consumable in sort of spec compliant GraphQL.
For sure.
So make it really easy for someone to come along, pick up Dgraph, and know exactly how to use it as the background database for your app or something that you're writing.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, then it's no different than writing queries or mutations if you were pinging an API. If you're following the spec, it doesn't matter necessarily what you're talking to. All that matters is the contract, right?
That's the beauty of GraphQL, right?
Yeah.
Like you've got this like you said, you've got an API contract. You know what you're doing. You don't necessarily care. I mean, obviously you care, but the implementation is different to the access, which is a really nice thing about that contract. And so that's one of the things we want to do is be able to expose the database in a way where you get that contract, and then you can obviously extend it with more custom logic or a whole bunch of other things. But as a GraphQL developer, you get a really nice natively GraphQL experience.
Yeah.
And one of the things that we sort of think comes out of that is because Dgraph and GraphQL are so close together, it's a really, really native experience. So with, like sort of kind of no translation here, like some other things you sort of, you've got an idea of what the GraphQL is, but then there's a translation down to SQL queries or whatever else, and you have to kind of maintain that other thing as well. Whereas here, like the GraphQL is what it is. So you're the sort of, you're right at the GraphQL layer anyway. So as a developer, there's no extra steps, no extra technology, no kind of distance between your GraphQL schema and your underlying data representation, basically.
Yeah, which is amazing for a couple of reasons. And I guess the one that I just want to focus on the most really is that it's almost just kind of like cutting out the middleman. So like when you set up a GraphQL API, and you're adding resolvers, and it sounds like Dgraph is very powerful, and I'm sure that you can account for a lot of those kind of situations where it's not as direct, where I feel like, but then again, that's generally because your GraphQL schema is having to work with something else under the hood, like a relational database or a NoSQL database or something that is not also a graph. And I guess because of that connection between the two, it allows you to essentially do that, cut out the middle layer. You don't, and then that removes chances for error, right? Like incorrect queries or joins or whatever it may be happening between that. It's less work. It's less maintenance and effort and code that you have to write yourself. This is really interesting. Consider me interested.
So the way we think about it is like, one of the things about GraphQL is that you're kind of layering a graph on top of something that's not a graph.
Yeah.
So you're sort of writing resolvers that take like an underlying SQL database and make it present a bit like it's a graph. So the way we think about it is kind of the other way around. Is you've got a graph, and then when you need to do some custom logic or some business rules or whatever, then you're augmenting the graph you've got rather than kind of layering a graph on top and augmenting that. There you go. So we in terms of less boilerplate, less maintenance, less much quicker to get from nothing to something as well.
Yeah, that's really awesome. Okay, cool. Yeah.
So if I've perked your interest, then we should just go and do something, I reckon.
Yeah. Let's go ahead and do something. That sounds good.
So what I did before we start the call, I thought about what kind of little app we could write. And the thing I settled on was like a little to-do application, because that's like one of the
always a classic,
gold standard, classic GraphQL apps.
Yeah.
So then that is just, you sort of spend less time describing what the app is and a bit more time writing the app.
For sure.
So you don't really have to worry about what the schema is or something. So what I did was, I deployed one. So what I've got here is I just, so this is just on Netlify. It's got an Apollo client front end. It's talking directly to a Dgraph instance hosted in the cloud, and then it's got Auth0 on the front. So this is just a like a really quick app I could spin up that's got like it's a multi-user app. So I'm signed in and Kurt's signed in and we both got our own to-dos, but because Dgraph's got built-in authorization, I can set up Auth0 so that the app just works and all the way down to the disk layer and back where, we're protected from each other. And so really the only thing I had to do to build this was write the UI, basically. So a couple of components and a few GraphQL queries, and we're already live on the internet with a multi-user app. So that's kind of what we're going to sort of work towards today. We're obviously not going to deploy it
for sure,
put all in front of it and all the rest of it. We're just going to kind of concentrate on the graph parts for the next little while. But that's sort of what we're working towards, is that experience of I'm coming to write my app. What do I have to do to get from nothing to something that's running? And this is the kind of experience we want to give people is, well, you can just, you can just concentrate on, at least in the first instance, before you need all of that custom logic and stuff with Dgraph, you can just start with your app and move forward.
Which sounds awesome. And I think that's a great point. We could just take a look at what it takes to get up and running with Dgraph, and then, see how long we have to mess around, muck around in it and build out a UI. I love it. This sounds awesome.
Yep. So why don't we just do it?
Let's do it.
I'm not sure what you set up in the background, but let's just start and see how far we get.
Cool. So I guess the first thing would be to spin up Dgraph, right? Would be to go ahead and get a database instance running that we can work from. Is that all right?
Yeah. So there's two really easy ways to do this. So way number one, which is what I think we're going to do, is we can just spin it up locally.
Yes.
Just in so we build a whole bunch of images. We're going to run the standalone image, which is just kind of the test. Get started, run it the first time. One easy, quick start. The other way we could do it is we're also building a hosted solution. So you could also spin up an instance in the cloud.
Oh, that's cool.
Which is what I did for that app. It's just sort of like a one-click spin up an instance experience, and you're away.
Nice. So this is gonna start up. This is kind of small. I don't think I can. Kitematic is not respecting my magnify. But for anyone who's watching, this is going through, just starting up our container, and it looks like it's up and running. And so now we can just go to settings, and it's got that going. So I'm using Kitematic. So for anyone who's not familiar, to run Docker through a UI, you can use an app called Kitematic. It comes with the Docker toolbox. And I just prefer it to running Docker command from the host because it will automatically publish ports and do that. So it's made, I'm not sure which ports we'll actually need, but it has made these ports available to us. So now we should be able to connect to this database already.
Yeah, I think so. So it's up, and so I'm the other way around. I just go Docker run blah from the terminal. So
which
way
is
old school.
Yeah, a very valid option as well too. Yeah.
We're going to need the 8080 port.
8080? Cool. Okay.
Yeah.
So the next thing is it's a GraphQL database. So we're going to talk to it through GraphQL. Is this correct? So what I generally use an app called Insomnia to do like GraphQL queries and requests. Do you think that would work here? Sure.
I also use Insomnia at the time. So yeah, go for it.
Perfect. And let me get that open and set up. So let's see. So, all right, and then I just gotta move this over and get it all. There we go. Whoa. Get it resized. All right, let's drop it off here. That's good enough. Ooh, I will try that later, but not right now. Thank you, Insomnia. Okay, so now what we can do is I'm just gonna do. I think I do new request. Where do I do that from? New request, Command N, and for now I'll just call this Dgraph.
Right. Yep. So one of the cool things about you probably want to did you want to switch that to GraphQL body?
Oh yeah, I'm about to. Yeah. Boop.
Yeah.
And then we're gonna.
So one of the cool things about Dgraph sort of being sort of note so natively GraphQL is that all of these tools just kind of work out of the box. So
Which is really
Insomnia,
cool.
GraphQL, Graphical, whichever one you want to use, Postman, there's a whole world of them. They all just work. So, and then you need the /GraphQL endpoint on the end of that.
That's right. Okay, do I have to put HTTP? Probably.
Probably, yeah.
There we go. And now, boop, let's take a look at the schema.
And if you go refresh schema, it'll tell you there's nothing.
Yes.
Because there's no schema in there.
Oh, right, because we haven't done anything. Yeah.
It's empty. It's completely empty.
Yeah.
It probably respond with a nicer empty result or something, but that at least tells you there's nothing there.
Yeah, yeah.
So what we should do now is let's start building our schema. So what we might do, seeing as we're going to build an app anyway,
yeah,
why don't we start with a like a new React app, and we'll write the schema as one of the files in that app, and then
love it.
Then at least we can save somewhere.
Okay, cool. So let's do that. So I'm going to jump into VS Code, and I'm going to create a new app.
So when I did this, I did it with TypeScript the other day because I thought that was kind of fun. I used Apollo CodeGen to generate my types and stuff directly out of. That was kind of cool. So I did create React app with the TypeScript template when I did it.
Sure, you want to do that? We could do TypeScript. Yeah. Okay. Do you know? So it's to do the TypeScript. Is it still create React app, and then do I have to pass a flag or something, or is it a different thing I'm calling?
In the name of the app you want. So like let's call it to do or Dgraph to do or whatever you want to call it.
Good call. Love it. Okay.
And then it's minus template TypeScript, and that'll give us a React TypeScript, boilerplate app.
That should do it, right? Do I have to do equals? I'm like brain farting. I do need an equals, right?
I don't think so.
No, I don't think so. This should be it. Yeah.
Do it. See what happens. It'll complain if that doesn't work.
Execute.
Yeah.
There we go. Cool.
So this is now just setting us up a boilerplate React app. Later on, we'll import Apollo client and all the rest into that. But let's just start with the schema once this gets up and running.
Absolutely.
So one of the cool things about Dgraph is because the schema is GraphQL, so like your data model's GraphQL, and that's actually the inherent model of the database itself. It means that when you're designing your app, like we're about to do, you basically just have to concentrate on what do I want my app to look like? What do I want these types to look like? How do I want them to be linked to each other?
Yeah.
You're not sort of then having this mental translation into some other data format that we then have to maintain. And then as we move forward, so it's one of the other cool things is as we iterate on that app, so as we go through the process today, we might make some changes or enhance the schema or something. You're just focused in your little GraphQL world about what your app talks about. So you don't have to when we make a change to the app, we'll just change the GraphQL schema and we're away.
Cool. So we have yes, this should work. Oh, actually, I don't know if this is going to work when I live share this. Let's see what happens.
What are we going to do?
I'm going to do. Have you used VS Code Live Share by chance before?
I've never used it, but I did install it.
Yeah.
Just before.
Cool. So what this does is basically allows you to remote into my VS Code, and you can type and do whatever inside of VS Code. Use the terminal. I can share those with you, and then everything just kind of becomes available to you. Let me get. Oops, where did send this link to you? Boop-a-da-boo. There we go.
And I'll just click on that. Does magic happen?
Yeah. If you click on it, magic should happen. You may have to sign in with like GitHub or something like that. Can't remember.
I did so just before.
Oh, then yeah, it should just work. TM. Yeah.
Yeah, it looks like we're up.
Cool. And then it'll say on my end that yeah. So it says
loading file tree on my side.
So we got a quick question from the chat. Awful Brown said, "How does the magic happen using someone else's VS Code?" So I believe what's happening, don't quote me on this, is it's essentially a tunnel, and it's just sharing the data back and forth from like connected our computers, right, through a tunnel, and so it's just sending over the information about the file tree and all that stuff, and making it available to Michael, and then I have the ability. So you've joined the session. So like if I open up like source app.tsx, you should also be able to open it. Yep, see, and so we got so Michael is
Yeah.
also an app.tsx. Then if I go back to the live share tab, number one, I can click on this little dot and now I'll follow him. So anywhere he goes, my VS Code will update if he goes into any other files. And then I can also share the terminal with him. So we can use a terminal as well. So let's go ahead and make this read write. And yeah, so now the terminal is available to you, and we don't have a server running, but yeah, you can run ls. You can start it. We're going to need to start it up, so if you want to, you can go ahead and...
I couldn't see that on my end. That's interesting.
Oh, you couldn't see where you typed ls?
No,
That's weird.
it worked. I can see it in the I can see it in the
That's
Skype
that's really
window in the
interesting.
share.
All right, so let me start
Uh,
this up.
Maybe I might close that and reopen the terminal, see what happens.
Oh yeah, that might do it. Oh, did VS
And then
Code just... Oh,
switch
okay.
there.
And
No, still can't see it.
oh, that's weird.
Oh,
I'll open up a new terminal and share that. So if we need to do anything in the terminal, we should be there. And if this is working properly, yeah. So if you go to your localhost 3000, you should actually see the running app on your computer as well.
yeah, I see the default
Yep.
React boilerplate app.
Yeah, exactly, which is what we've got. So yeah, so we are up, we are connected, and we are good to go. So I guess like, from this point, it's up to you. I can definitely drive, or you could. I mean, it seems like, you know exactly what we're going to need to do here. So,
Why don't, let's why don't you drive?
sure.
And
Yeah,
that way I can sit back and watch.
absolutely. Yeah, sounds good. All right, so the first thing you said is we're going to create a schema, right? And so should I just drop that? Oh, Salt and Burnham 313. What's up? How's it going? Thank you for joining us. Um, so I guess right in source, is this where I should drop my schema? Should I make like a separate folder for this stuff, or what do you think?
For this instance, it's not really going to matter. Let's just make a file somewhere called schema.graphql or to do schema.graphql or whatever we want to call it.
Schema.graphql works for me.
Winning. So now we need to design our app, right?
Yeah.
So that app I showed you before is, if we think about what's in there, there's just really kind of two things, right? There's like users and to-dos.
Yeah.
And then users have of to-dos. So let's just start with one type of users, and let's not put anything in there, just make it empty, and then a type of to-do.
Is this right?
Yeah, go for it. So let's sort of just kind of live code what we think each of these types needs. And like I said, it's one of the cool things about Dgraph is it's really, really flexible. So in this kind of fast iteration environment, we can fiddle this and change it and do all kinds of things, and Dgraph will be responsive to that in the end. So
real quick before we dive into the types, Auranos 007 just asked, what is Dgraph? Can you just give like the quick synopsis, maybe catch up on the quick tip? How would you elevator pitch it?
Yeah, the elevator pitch is just it's a native graph database. So it's Dgraph Labs database all the way down to the disk. It natively stores graphs and has a really close connection with GraphQL. So its native storage mechanism is very much about nodes and edges. So in this instance, we're going to have users and to-dos. So if you think about what that graph looks like, it's going to be users and they're going to be connected by edges to all their to-dos. That's a really simple graph, like it's just little trees at that point. But if we had something else, like you could share a to-do with another user, or you could friend users, you start to see this kind of graph forming. And that's the native storage mechanism of Dgraph, is that graph.
Yeah.
It has this really connection, this sort of native connection with GraphQL. So that's what we're kind of exploring here, is just how we're going to use the GraphQL schema, and that's basically Dgraph schema, and then we can just sort of jump straight into writing an app on top of Dgraph as a GraphQL app with no other tech in the way,
I
basically.
love that. That sounds so awesome. All right, so I guess
Someone else will ask, in an hour, my elevator pitch is going to get shorter and shorter and shorter.
nice. No problem, RNOS 007. Thank you for joining us. We love having you here. Okay, so I guess we'll need an ID, right? And like
Yeah.
I'm gonna give it ID type, and it's a to do, right? So we're gonna need. I'll just say it. We'll call it the description. What is our to do? That will be a string, and I mean you kind of have to have that as well. So I'm gonna make that required.
Yep.
Completed, right? Is this thing done or not? Seems like.
Can I go and get a drink? This is great. Yeah, yeah. Just
I'll
go
be
make
back.
a coffee or something. I'll be back in an hour. You can just finish this off from here. Yeah, this is the experience. This is the experience I want you to have, right?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. This is just.
some people jumping on might not know enough GraphQL to kind of get up, but as someone who knows a little bit of GraphQL, you basically just wrote the description of the to-do type, which I mean, I think it's perfectly reasonable. We can change it in lots of ways. We could add more things. We could add a date that it was completed. We could add a date it was added. We do all kinds of stuff, but that's like the minimal version of a to-do for the moment.
I love it. Yeah, this is what I would say. This is like if I were building this, this is what I would start with, right? And that's exactly what we want. As far as the user goes, we would need an ID, and I guess maybe like a username.
Yeah, it sounds like a reasonable thing. So we're gonna learn something just in a second here.
Ooh, I love to learn new things. I'm gonna make it a string.
Yep.
Yeah, and then I mean honestly, like I think that's all we would really need to get started with a user.
Yeah. So can I jump in there? Let me.
Oh,
let me
please
just,
do.
just to where did that window go?
So let me save it, and then if you hit the refresh on the workspace space in VS Code, it should show up.
Yeah, I see. I know. I see it here.
There we go.
Yep.
Cool.
So two things I'm going to do is I'm just going to remove that little
Right.
required completed.
Good
Not because it's not required, but just because I think later on, let's pretend we made a mistake, and then later on we'll fix that.
Ooh, even better.
And like a data migration or something, just to give us a little bit of an extra experience, like we didn't get it right the first time.
Yeah, that's
like
cool.
I didn't just
Yeah.
fix this morning. Yeah. So the other thing is, so Dgraph natively supports two kinds of IDs. So we've got this kind of ID here. Is that gonna, if I highlight those up? Yep.
Yeah.
So these Dgraph will automatically generate a 64-bit integer ID for these ones. So if we put this kind of thing in our type, every time we make a new to-do, Dgraph will just allocate essentially a new node in the graph for that. For users, though, it kind of makes more sense if we do something like this. Dgraph has another kind of IDs, which are which we expect to get externally from you. So this annotation will say, hey, look, this user is an ID that I'm expecting to get externally. And hey, could you, Dgraph, manage this and just make sure it's unique for me, basically. So this is a bit like saying these are a bit like primary keys if you think about it in other database terms. But this one will say that this is going to be a string. And then if you think about the flow through our app, when someone tries to sign up, that's eventually going to run a mutation somewhere that's trying to insert a user, and Dgraph will, if Kurt tries to sign up twice, Dgraph will reject the second one, saying, hey, this is not a unique key.
Yeah.
And then your app can respond appropriately.
Wow.
So there's a little bit of a difference here between sort of like your data model and then telling Dgraph how to make that data model behave. So if you think about just the raw types, there's a type of to-dos and they've got an ID and they've got a description that's a string and they've got a completed that's a Boolean. And then there's some other annotations here that are telling, that's all just structural stuff about what our graph's going to look like underneath. And then there's some other things here like this is telling Dgraph how to behave.
Yeah.
What the GraphQL API we're going to get out of this should do or not do. So there's a little bit of a where we're describing the type, but we're also telling Dgraph how to interpret this GraphQL schema. Because one of the cool things about GraphQL is it gives you like a schema is a description of the sort of, I guess I'm going to say the syntax of a server. It tells you about the types and the relationships between those types, like a to-do is linked to a user in our graph, but doesn't
Right.
actually tell you the semantics. So if we were going to drop in now, we could cut and paste this into like an Apollo server and start implementing this on top of some other database. We would then implement resolvers for these things, and our resolvers would we'd expect our resolver to maintain this property for us, right? That our usernames are unique keys, and that'd be something that either lives in the code or that we're getting from a key or something in the database. So one of the cool things about GraphQL is you've got this syntax, and then you can interpret that syntax in a number of different semantics. So that's basically what's happening here. Is we've got this syntax, and then we're telling Dgraph how to interpret that.
Yeah, and the thing I love about this is that it's a directive. It's just it's nothing extra, nothing special. It's just a directive like any other directive that you could run into in a graph database.
Yeah, and it's just raw GraphQL as well. So there's nothing special happening here.
Yeah.
The other thing I'm going to do is let's make our users
Oh, right.
have a list of all the to-dos that they've made. So then we should query from a user to all of their to-dos, and we should also be able to query from a to-do back to its user.
I agree.
So this brings up another little point about GraphQL, is that this edge says that users have got to-dos, and this edge says a to-do has got a user, but nothing in like a GraphQL schema says that
there's any, together.
Like I said before, there's nothing tying these two together. So if we were to implement this in GraphQL Java or Apollo Server or whatever we like, we would write some code that ties these two things together. And so same as before, Dgraph's got so if we didn't put a directive on this, Dgraph would just ignore it, just let us do whatever we like. But by putting this directive on here, let me just grab that. This is telling Dgraph, hey, these two edges are not really two different edges. They're just two directions of the same edge, basically. So now Dgraph is going to interpret this relationship and make sure that when we add a to-do, we can also traverse from the user to its to-do and the to-do back to its user, and it's going to maintain that that two-way relationship between these two edges.
Got it. Okay, and so because you're putting it on the user with the to-dos, and it's saying it has the inverse, which is the field of user on to-do, it just kind of it knows now. It's like, oh, I'm going to draw this connection.
Dgraph will look at this type and then go in. We don't have to go to the to-do type and its user edge. Dgraph already knows the type here, and so it'll get the right edge here.
Yeah.
Just the edge. Yeah.
So we had another quick question. Sorry to interrupt you. I just want to real quick from Aranos007 again, which is I just want to clarify that Dgraph itself is the database. So like it is a native database, and you use GraphQL to query it, much like you would use SQL to query from a SQL database, right? Like Postgres or something like that. SQL, sorry. And so I think that jumping in a little bit late, that might have been confusing, but because we're writing this schema, you might think of this as like programmatically, like creating like a migration or something like that, like a script or something that's going to spin up and create these tables for you. In sense, there's no tables because it's a graph database, but just if you draw that relation. Okay, perfect. That answered that. That cleared that up for you. Yeah. Awesome.
Up there, yeah. So the cool thing is now we've just designed our little app. All we've concentrated on is the GraphQL schema. We've just written some types, some relationships between the types, and a couple of these directives that tell Dgraph how to interpret some of these edges, and that's enough for us to get started.
Yes.
So what I'll do now is that endpoint you have. Let me just. Now I've got too many VS Code windows open. Which one's not my live share one? This one, I think. Nope, wrong one. This one. So I'm going to ping you just a curl command that'll post this schema into Dgraph.
Oh, cool. Okay, yeah, awesome.
If I run it in the terminal, what will happen?
It should work. So TM, let me open up a new terminal, actually. So we have a new one, and I'll share that with you, and it
Oh,
should.
now I've got the terminal alive. I've got another terminal.
Yeah.
All right. So if
Oh,
I do that, are you there? Oh, actually, no, I need to go to, let me just,
oh, we're gonna
this
change
will
the
be in,
8080, right? Because
and what was the,
here, let me
what was
grab
the,
that port for you because it's let me go see what it is. That is the one thing. It's a 327
three,
6
two, seven,
69.
6, 9.
Oh,
Okay. So all we're going to do is just post this string, this schema that we've just written into Dgraph, and it will, from that, as long as we've got all the ports and everything right, and I'm in the right directory. Yep, there we go. It said success, but then it disappeared. Does it still say success on your side?
it
It
sure
does.
does.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep. So what's happened now is Dgraph has taken this schema and taken all the types and things that we put in there and the annotations like what's required and what's not required and the ID and the inverse. And from that built a GraphQL API.
That's so
And that,
cool.
that GraphQL API has got like a CRUD interface in the first instance that'll allow us to query users and add to-dos and a whole bunch of other stuff.
Yeah.
So what we jump,
Back
if
to
I just let you
Insomnia.
drive, we jump into Insomnia and we refresh the schema, we should be golden.
This is so wild. Show documentation.
Yeah, we're there.
And
Okay,
we're
so
in.
if you
Hack the planet. Sorry. This is so cool. And so now we can get users, which of course, like, we don't have any. But
no,
we could
so
do
we
get
could write
user or get users, right? Is there get users? Nope, just query user.
so there's get user, which will get you a single one, and query, which will get you. So we didn't put the S on the end, we put it at the front. So it's the difference between get and user. And because we said the username is an ID, you can use get user just with the ID, or you can query users like this,
Yeah,
and you didn't get anything back, which is what we expected
exactly.
because there's no data.
Yeah.
Right. So then we should probably look at the mutations and start adding some data.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think we just got to follow. Hey, Giant Flapjack, was that what I saw? Giant Flapjack? Yeah, thank you for the follow. And that is a great username, by the way, if that is what I saw. All right, cool. Yeah, and then here's our mutations. So we can add users and update users, delete users. So it basically, it's scaffolded out, like you just said, all the CRUD operations for us related to these types.
Yeah. And depending on other annotations we add into that schema, we can massage this around and add more or less or whatever in here, and sort of create a slightly different API. But at the moment, we've just got like a default. We can add stuff and delete it and query it. You know,
Yeah, so we could say mutation. We'll um, add user. Okay, cool. So it defaults to an input. Now is that like I'm noticing I see input other than filter, which would be for the delete, and then we can check. Oh, cool. So it can even be. Wow, we could even add references to the to-dos here.
so one of the things that we try and do as hard as possible in Dgraph. You remember back to when I was describing that GraphQL has this really nice consumable property. Like a GraphQL query is sort of instantly consumable as JSON in any language you like. You just unmarshal it and you're away. We try and go the other way as much as possible as well. We try and make it so that if you were, say, client side, you had an app, you'd built some data structure and maybe links some types together or whatever. We want you to just be able to serialize that and send it, and it should just work. We don't want you to have to write some code client side to add the user and then add a to do and then do something else. If you've got a data model that you just throw it in, and then sort of the opposite of the GraphQL query. GraphQL query is just JSON, easy to unmarshal, easy to use. The other way should be the same.
For sure.
Just marshal up, send it in. So let's add a user here. Maybe we can sort of show that with both ways. Let's just add Kurt or something. Yeah. So a user. So it takes an array. We can add multiple users at once, and we can add deep ones as well.
I feel like I'm doing this incorrect. Oh, it's an array of objects. Or just
an
names?
array of objects.
Got it.
Array of objects. So each user's got a username. So if we just let's just make Kurt or something to start with. And then you'll need to get a selection set out of that. So at the end of the add user, you'll need to back the username or something. Oh, you'll need to get, user and then get its username.
Oh.
And the queries are like the mutations. They go as deep as you like. So you don't have to just query back the stuff you put in. You can query through the graph as much as you like. So if you ran that much, I think as long as that's not got any red squiggly lines, you should be golden. So we added Kurt. So that was pretty easy. Why don't we add Michael and give Michael a to-do or something while we're there, as if you could imagine a flow in your app where someone was allowed to write a list of to-dos before they signed up, and then when they hit the sign up button, and all their to-dos all in one mutation. So let's add Michael, and then you're going to need a comma, and then Michael's got a list of to-dos, and then you just start adding as many to-dos as you like.
And these are just objects. So we could just say ID. Well, do we have to specify that?
Right. No, just leave the ID blank, because Dgraph will give us that ID.
So all we have to do is description. So.
Yeah. And what else did we make required in that schema? I forget what we made required and not required. Only description and a user was required.
I think so. I think so. I think we can get away with just this, but let's just do one more just because, I like it. It's a lot of fun.
We do need to add in this case, we don't need to add a link back to the user because it's, cool. Yep. So you can imagine, in this case, client side, we've got an object of user type and we've got an object of to-do type, and someone's put a couple in, and then we're going to, add the user and the object at once, or, a shopping cart and the 5 objects in the cart all in one mutation or something. So this should, and then maybe, seeing as we've done this, let's get Michael's to-dos.
Yeah, I was just going to say. Yeah, let's do the to-dos, which is, oops. I can't see. There we go.
That's unhelpful.
Yeah, when it's blocking you, right? Description, and we'll get completed.
Yeah, because we didn't put completed in, so we're expecting to get null for completed here.
Yeah, for sure. So we run it. Oh, so for anyone who's not aware, you're just seeing it updated. I'm hitting Command Enter in Graphical, Insomnia, GraphQL Playground, most of these things. Command Enter will run the query or mutation that you have on the left-hand side. Yeah. Cool. And look at that. So we've got it back. So it added the user. So now Michael is a user within this system, within our database, and it added the to-dos. I am already blown away. This is wild stuff to me. This is so cool.
Yeah.
Because
so as someone who knows Apollo Client, you could kind of see what this would look like in Apollo Client, something right in your UI.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and it's the fact that there's nothing in the middle. There's nothing in between writing the schema, getting that into Dgraph, and then just started making queries and mutations. It's really powerful stuff. You can start building apps.
There's nothing, you just writing UI.
Yeah, that's amazing. Very cool. Awesome. All right.
So what should we do next? I mean, you might have a thought in your head about something you want to do.
I do. Well, So the first thing is which we brought up earlier, which we did, is that for the completed, we're getting back a null, but I would really love that to just be true or false, no matter what.
Yep. So let's go back to our schema then, and this is the magic. We're just to iterate on our schema. We're just going to put in what we expect. So I'm just going to let you do it, right? So you can. Do it and then just save it and re-add the schema to Dgraph.
Cool. And so that's literally just rerunning the same command.
Yep. So rerun that command. It'll reload the schema into Dgraph.
So fast.
And then we have to think about what just happened.
Yeah.
So remember when I said Dgraph can operate at massive scale? So Dgraph isn't going to make any choices about what you meant here in terms of, it's not going to go through the database and change completed edges or whatever. It's just going to say, right, there's some data in the database, and now you've told me that the API requires completed objects. So if we did something in Insomnia now, like ran a query to try and get all Michael's to-dos, let's do that.
Yeah,
Let's
let's absolutely
just
do
query
that.
a couple of to-dos. GraphQL rules are going to tell us that something's broken
Oops.
here. Like this is so you just want to do query user or get user Michael and get all these to-dos or something. Yeah, get user.
Let's take username. There we go.
Because that was the field we called it.
Yeah. Right, that's the ID. Our ID field is username, and we want to-dos, description, and completed. Oops. I'm always expecting that. Oh, go ahead.
Let's ask without description. It's just because we'll get to see them, and then so if we sorry, ask without completed first. Sorry.
Oh, without completed.
Yeah. Right. So if we send that one in, that should be enough. Right. So we got Michael's two to-dos, but then we've just changed the API to say that to-dos must have a completed. But we know in the database that they don't.
Yeah, they're null.
Completed.
Yeah.
So if we ask for completed now, they're going to come back as null. And Dgraph's going to apply the sort of GraphQL null rules, and it's going to say, "Nah, sorry, I can't return you a valid user because the completed field is not there."
Which makes sense.
Yep. So let's do a little data migration and put it in.
Yeah.
Make sure we get our data up. So let's update all the posts. So and again, we're iterating on our app. We don't have to leave and go to another technology. We can do our data migrations just in GraphQL.
That's so wild. Okay. All right.
So we've just updated our schema. We need to update some data. Let's just do it all in GraphQL. So we're going to do a update to do mutation.
Update to do, and then that's going to take an input, I would imagine. Let me go check the schema.
You've got a little curly brackets around.
Oh yeah, that too. Let's get rid of this first. Oh, I am backwards. I'm one layer too high.
There we go. Yep. And then you'll get the syntax help. So we're going to update it to do, and then so in general, we've called things that are some input, which is blatantly obvious, and then things that search the graph or make restrictions on the graph we've always called filter. Basically. So,
got it.
So input takes an object. You can check in the schema if you want. Input takes an object here. There's a filter which will restrict things. So the question is, so let's put a filter in. And the question is, what's our filter going to be? So which to-dos do we want to update? And I reckon we want to update all the ones where it's not the case. Let's update all the ones where not completed and just set them as false. How's that sound?
I love it. Yeah, that sounds great. And so not is
takes an object. So it takes an object. Completed is a Boolean edge, right? So that'll just take. You should, if you just put an object in and then press context sensitive.
Put an object in here. Got it.
So after the not, if you go after the not, and then to delete completed.
I see. Sorry. It's another nested object inside of not.
Yep.
Here.
And you can nest nots and ors and and then that should make a field, which in this case completed. Oh no, we didn't do it. Oh, we are going to have to make another update. Sorry.
No worries.
I've led you astray. Can we just go back to the schema?
Yeah, sure can.
We haven't told Dgraph to build any. The VS Code. We haven't told Dgraph to build any search or filtering options for to-dos or users or anything.
So we're coming up empty because it doesn't know what you should be able to filter on.
Yeah, so we have to tell the API what do we want to be able to do in this API.
Yeah.
So if we drop back into VS Code, the one we'll need for this is after completed. Maybe I'll just whack it in.
Yeah. Search.
We're just going to tell Dgraph we want to be able to search by whether things are completed or not, and it will use that info then to generate an option in that filter to say, hey, we want to be able to filter by whether things are completed or not completed or whatever else. So let's punch that schema back in.
All right.
And we are away. And then if you in Insomnia refresh the schema again, we should be golden.
All right. Cool. So now we should be able to. So we have not.
Completed can be true or false. There we go. We're winning.
And we want not true in this case.
So we're going to take all. So let me just read this just to make sure. Yeah. So the filter is saying we want to take all the ones where completed's not true. And then there's another argument in that input type after filter, which is what are we going to do?
Oh, that makes sense. I wish I knew how to prettify this. Prettify GraphQL. Oh, but because there's an error, it won't work. So let me real quick just put to do completed just to get rid of that. Boom. Okay. Well, that was not helpful. Let me give you some more space. There we go.
Let's enter a filter just before filter or something, press enter there, and then if we put, where would we put the next one? Where's that finish? About there, and put a comma in there, and then do another. Yeah, that looks right. So
okay,
after the little filter, put a comma, and then we're going to say, what are we going to do? We're going to set a new value.
It's all starting to make sense now. We're going to set completed to false.
Yep, and set takes an object because we could be setting any number of stuff inside to do. So we're going to set completed to false. Yep. And at that point, if there's no red squiggles, we should be golden. So that's going to go away and search the graph for all to-dos that are not completed, which is going to include the ones that have a null edge are obviously not completed.
Yeah.
They don't have true on that edge. And then we're just going to set them all to false. So let's just go bang, and we should be golden. Yep. So now if we were to search for all the to-dos and whether they're completed or not, we're golden.
Oh.
We're golden. We never had to leave our GraphQL experience to get from schema to a running database to doing migrations and editing the schema and doing all that kind of stuff.
This is wild. Oops. I'm just having the time of my life with this.
So we should be able to get the description and whether they're completed or not. And
let's comment this out. Look at that.
Bang, done.
So
we've just first iteration on our schema and fixed up our mistake from before where we didn't have things completed.
Yeah, we just did a migration in Insomnia. That's so cool.
Don't do this in production, but go for it.
That is amazing. Okay, cool. Yeah, all right. I'm feeling this now. Okay, yeah, so now we've got this. We've got it working. We've got a system set up. We've got some users. We've got some completed. Let's build an app. Like at this point, let's start building something.
Yep. So we can just drop into VS Code and start installing all the stuff we're going to need to build our app.
Yeah. So you were saying that you use. So I guess at this point, because it's GraphQL, it's kind of like pick your own GraphQL client, right?
Yeah, for which we're going to pick Apollo 3.0, right?
Yeah, you absolutely know it. So yeah, to get going with that, we're going to do Apollo client, and this is just going to reference at Apollo. This is Apollo client 3.0, release candidate coming like super soon. Like, oh man, they might get mad at me, but like within a weekish soon, like very close. We're really pushing out. Yeah, and then GraphQL, we need GraphQL. And then because we're using TypeScript and we probably want our types, we should do the Apollo CodeGen, which I believe is still under Apollo CodeGen. I want to say
I did that as a
I'll have to go check.
Dependency when I did it before, but let me just, my phone's pinging at me, so I'm just going to put it on.
No worries. While you do that, I'm going to look this up.
Hey, stop talking to me. Okay, done. So what I did was I did all the dependencies and then did the dependencies in a separate call.
Oh, that makes sense. We should do that. I almost installed it as a like a regular dependency.
So I put in a client, and then I put in the beta versions of React awk and React components as well. Yeah, I'll cut and paste them into your
Those all
terminal.
come in. Those all come in with Apollo Client now.
Oh, oh, then I was too busy reading docs and cutting and pasting things, and
Yeah.
not maybe not into the docs and too busy cutting and pasting things.
Yeah, right. No worries. Yeah, but yeah, that's one of the. Oh, I always forget to do add. I'm like, what do you mean Apollo Client's not a command?
Yeah. Should just be on the terminal, right?
Yeah, you should know. But yeah, that's one of the great things about Apollo Client 3 is, I mean, you have to install HTTP link, in memory cache. You know, like if you're going with the standard version, the React hooks, like all that stuff, it's all packaged up now. So that's done. So now we can do yarn add. How do you do it for peer dependencies? -D.
Minus capital D, I think it is.
Yeah, capital D.
Isn't it?
Yep. And then let's see, what else did we need?
I added Apollo and types GraphQL.
Okay. Apollo CodeGen or just Apollo?
Yeah.
That's right. Apollo, and then what was the other one?
At types/GraphQL.
That's right.
I was feeling my way. I did this yesterday. I was feeling my way a little because I hadn't used 3.0 yet, so I was kind of, surfing the docs and adding things. And like I said, I probably added too much stuff, went overboard. But it was still pretty. I mean, it worked fine, so I was happy with that experience.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I believe that when you go to the docs, the beta docs are not the main version yet. It takes you to the 2.6, which would have instructed you to install hooks and all that stuff separately. So, Viable Claim member said Dgraph 1.0.2 Jensen article is a good read. Jepsen, I don't know.
So Jepsen's database testing framework. So he does this thing where they sort of test the stability and whatever databases, and lots of databases get run through Jepsen tests. The 1.0.2 is it's a good read, a little bit old, but
cool.
We're up to like newer versions. But that's part of the sort of, you're building a big distributed graph database. You've got to do all of those assurance things to make sure that your distributed transactions and all this stuff that's going on is sound. So that's Jepsen's a really cool thing.
Nice.
All right, what do we do? What are we going to do?
So I'm in. I jumped into index.tsx and I'm just starting to add all the imports from Apollo, and I think I'll get the provider wrapped around our app, set up the client and all that fun stuff, and then we can generate some types and take it from there. What do you think?
Yeah. Yep.
Cool.
That sounds awesome. Now, how do I follow you on the thing here?
So if you
live share.
Yeah, if you go to your live share, next to my name, there should be a circle, a colorful circle.
Yeah, it's got a red dash in it.
Yeah, click on that circle. Or even maybe right-click my name.
Sorry, I was clicking the contact spot. Sorry, I clicked. Now I'm with you. Okay.
There we go.
There's the session detail, the contacts tab. Yeah, okay.
Got it. Yeah. Yep, and now you should be able to just follow me right around. Okay, so that Apollo client, we need HTTP link. Actually, no we don't, because we're just going to specify the URI. We don't need that. We need in-memory cache. And that should be all we need here. What am I doing? Oh, yeah. Okay. And now we can say
client equals, and you're going to need to get the port and whatever.
I'm going to grab that. I think I can grab that from the terminal if I go up a couple commands. I think it's URI, and we'll leave that for now. And then cache is going to be new in memory cache. And then if we go boop, 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 boop.
There we go. That's it. Localhost, etc.
Yeah. Etc. etc. /GraphQL, right?
Yep.
Cool.
Yep.
So now we've got that. Okay. Should be it for that. So we're all set up.
So that should have had no visible effect, right?
Yeah.
the, the proof that that worked is that it didn't crash the app, which
Oh,
doesn't
did
look
it
like
not?
it.
I
So
don't even know. Let me go check.
it's running. It's
Yeah,
still running. We're fine.
looks like we're good to go. Yeah, okay, so now we can go into app, and just for a test, I'm just going to make a query. We already have some to-dos. I'm just going to pull them in console,
Yeah.
log them out. How does that sound?
Yeah, go for it. Go for it. Yeah, that's easy start.
And so this is what I was saying. You can actually, the hooks just come right out of Apollo Client now, which is nice.
Yeah, nice.
And so now we can say, nope, backwards, it's an object. And then, of course, we'll have to write our query, which we'll get to in just one
Well,
second.
just cut and paste it from Insomnia, can't we?
Oh, yes, we certainly can, and I cannot wait. So then we could say if, first let's just do a little spring cleaning. Actually, let's see. Yeah, this is
We
fine.
could probably, yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to strip out most of this anyway. So we could just say, yeah, you know what? This is fine for now. We're just doing for funsies. So we'll say loading. That will be our
Yep.
our whole app. And then in here, I'll say error, and we'll do like a H3 or something.
Hopefully we're not going to see this bit. So
Yeah. Exactly. Here, and then I guess, yeah, let's go get that query so that we can look at our data structure. See what we're working with.
So we're going to have to make a little bit of a choice here because in the app I showed you at the start, it's like a multi-user app, and I used Auth0 on the front to kind of
Right.
give us a JWT, and we're going to use that JWT to pull the user out and whatever. But why don't we just, for the moment, we could just hard code the user in the app, and
Yeah.
then if we got to doing the auth stuff, I could show you that at the end. But we'll see how far we get.
Yeah, for sure.
Or you could invite me back and we can do it next time.
So I am totally down for doing a part 2 to this. I think because authentication kind of like takes that complexity scale up.
It's its own thing, yeah.
Yeah. I would love 100% to do a follow-up to this like very soon, if you're down. I would love to have you come back on and show us like advanced Dgraph, and like we could even start with kind of where we leave off with the full to-do app, add authentication and stuff to it. I think that would be great.
I did have a zany idea when we were looking at the messages before. I was thinking we could write half a chat app and then get the chat people to come onto the chat app that we're writing live.
Yes, I love that. I love that. That would be amazing.
In this instance, we could get them to write their own to-dos or something, but then we can't see them. A chat app would be kind of fun.
I think that's a great idea. I would love to do that. So now we got to do GQL, which also comes out of Apollo Client now. Everything.
Yeah. Less stuff.
Less stuff is better. And so we can just say GQL, and I'm going to name this query just because like I'm going to be a good citizen.
Well, we're going to need that in a bit when we do the code gen, aren't we? It requires us to give more names.
That's a very good point. Yes, we will. Okay. I mean, so this is essentially what we have. And then it would be...
We can just, I don't know, dump them as a string, or we could put them in a list, or we can do whatever you want. Map through a list or something. I don't know, whatever's the quickest typing, I reckon.
Yeah, well, for right now, you're right. For right now, let's do this. Let's just console log it out.
Okay.
That's going to be the fastest route. Someone just asked, LOL Cool Cat asked, is Michael sitting on one of those workout balls? Busted.
Yeah.
I love it.
Is that annoying anyone that I'm just kind of lightly bouncing up and down
No,
every now and then?
I love it. I think it's great.
This is my work day sometimes. Sit on the ball and just kind of like, bounce around or roll or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. So real quick, well, first we'll take a look at the console log. So we'll come back to that. But we got a question in the chat from Viable Clan member, which is there a VS Code plugin that lets me code complete inside the GQL backtick thing? And yes, there is. You can actually use the Apollo VS Code extension to do that very thing, and we'll set it up here in a second so we can start getting the autocomplete. But first, real quick, let's just see where we're at with this. And we could do that by going to our app and bringing this up. And it's good that we have a white screen, which might seem like you wouldn't want that, but we do because we didn't render anything. We took everything out of the body. And we can see that we have our object, our get user. Let me blow this up.
Yeah.
Yeah, type name user. We have our to-dos, and we can see that they are here.
Yeah.
So we're already connected. And then I heard, I think that might be some slight trolling from LOL Cool Cat. I heard Dgraph is built on MongoDB.
No.
No, it's not. It's built on.
It's built on
I was going to say it's on Badger, right?
Right. That's right.
Yes. Awesome. Cool. Yeah. No, it's built on Badger.
That is fake news. Thanks, Viable Clan member.
Yeah, fake news. Love it. Okay. All right. So yeah, so we're good. We're up and running. We've got our data coming. Quick derailment. We're gonna look at the just 2 seconds. Yeah, we're gonna look at the Apollo GraphQL extension for VS Code. And so like in talking about inside of the GQL things here, let me just minimize this a little bit, pull it down. Yeah. So you add syntax highlighting, autocomplete. If you're using things like a service that happens to be deployed, like you're managing your GraphQL database with Graph Manager, can do some fun stuff with that. But so in order to get it working, what we're going to do is we're going to, at the root of the project, we'll create a new file. Oh, it has to be with, it's not going to work because I didn't open this project up with the root of it being the project. I don't know if that makes sense, but in VS Code it works very weird when you add a project to a work or a folder to a workspace. It doesn't consider that the root of the project. So I would have to close VS Code and like reopen it, restart the live share to show that off. So I'm not going to go through all of that, but if you install this extension and follow the getting started steps, you can ignore anything that says API key from engine. You can point to a local schema. That's the part you want to look at, local schema. And yeah, so you would just say service, you give it a name and a URL inside of this client, this right here, and that will pick it up and work. I would do it, but I just don't want to have to restart VS Code and go through all of that. But yeah,
Dgraph locally, it would go and pull the schema from Dgraph, and you'd get
absolutely
in your which is super cool. I mean, honestly, if you can't tab complete when you're programming, it's sort of lost.
What is life? What is life without that? So I have discovered that pretty much like every app supports. We do have a video where we go through all of that. So if you go to the Apollo GraphQL YouTube channel, there is a mission briefing playlist, and in there is an episode of configuring projects with Apollo GraphQL. It can point to a file. It can point to a local file schema. It can do introspection from the API. Yeah, but yeah, there's how to set up any type of project is covered in that episode of mission briefing. Yep.
In this case, you could point it live, like you've got in the middle of the screen there,
yep,
to the Dgraph instance. You could also, there's also a query where you can tell Dgraph, hey, give me the schema that you built from my
that's
from
cool.
my types. you could download that schema and store it in your source tree as well if you didn't want to do it live. So
Nice.
both ways work.
Yeah, awesome. Very cool. Yeah, okay. So we're up, we're running, we've got data. What's next? I mean, I guess we want to start like listing these, be able to complete them, kind of stuff like that, right?
Yeah, so what I did, and I'm not as expert as you, I did the code gen thing
Oh, code
so
gen.
that I could get the
Types.
types and stuff. I just did that as, I mean, I'm a bit of a types person, and I'd always go to TypeScript before anything else,
Yep.
and that just gives you a nice, you get all your types just get pulled straight out of your queries and out of Dgraph, and then you get this kind of nice experience for
Yeah.
developing your app.
I don't
That's what
even
I did, but we don't
remember this off the top of my head. Do you want to run that command for generating the types? I
have.
think it's just Apollo code gen, right?
We'll have to make sure we get all the what's the names, the paths and whatever correct. It's called Apollo code gen, and then you can point at an endpoint, minus minus endpoint.
So hang on, because
Just
I
Apollo.
installed it as a dev dependency. So we'll have to create like a script, right?
I think we can just do it, can't we?
Let's find
Oh, did
out.
we not put that globally? What did we do with the Apollo thing? Did we just put it in here? We might have to yarn run it or something if it's just in here, right?
Yeah, I just put it in. I believe I just installed it as a dev dependency.
What do we have to do then? Do we have to go
Apollo.
yarn run, or do we?
So we would have to make a script because otherwise or I could install it globally. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go the scripts route.
Okay, and then we can just run it over and over again when we need to generate. If we need to
Exactly.
generate types.
Apollo, I like do not. I think it's just Apollo code gen, right?
I did code gen generate, but I don't know whether that's required or not.
There we go. I know, probably. I honestly haven't done it in a while, so I don't
Yeah,
know.
works. We're both a little bit. Yeah, I'm going to type something.
Ah,
Then I did
thank
minus
you.
minus endpoint,
Yeah.
which
You can either grab out of app.tsx if that's easier. Probably.
I'll grab it in a second. I'm just going to put the other bits I did in.
No worries.
And you can help me complete this as we go along. This is what pair programming is about. You kind of half write in the line, and then you expect your pair to, finish everything for you.
Cool.
Uh,
Okay, let me
see.
save this. So we got a question in chat. This one is beyond me. So, LOL Cool Cat asked, "Does Apollo Federation work with Dgraph yet?" That,
Oh yeah, good question.
yeah, that's a good question. I wouldn't know either.
So the answer to that question is, we actually. So one of the cool things about this is, you just sort of write this schema and then suddenly you've got GraphQL. And one of the cool things would be to kind of annotate that schema with the federation, the key and,
Right.
and all the rest, and then it just pop up in a federation. And we actually implemented that, and then at the I was going to say GraphQL US, but it's
GraphQL
GraphQL
Summit?
Concord. What's Summit? That's the right word. Sorry, had a mind blank there.
No
We
worries.
had this demo at GraphQL Summit last year where we took. So Apollo's got this really nice federation demo that's got like a users service. What else is in it? Like a product service and then some reviews or something.
Yeah.
And it just how you can create a federation from different GraphQL services. And basically what I did was just deleted the reviews service and then put in a Dgraph schema that was the reviews schema, and then bang, it all just works. And that's kind of really cool. But we never actually released that. And I think the reason why is that we weren't really sure whether people would really want it straight out of Dgraph, or whether people would prefer to just put a really thin Apollo server in front of Dgraph and then make that Apollo server part of the federation. So yes, you can do it. I mean, technically it's easy.
Yeah.
But no, there's nothing really that does it, and that's not. That's more just us kind of wondering, when people actually do this, which way would they rather go? Would they rather just write a really thin Apollo server and only expose some of Dgraph into the federation,
Yeah.
which seems cool? Just have like a little proxy server that only exposes some parts. put that into the federation, or whether people would want it raw Dgraph, and we're not 100% sold on which way to go. So,
Yeah.
if you have comments on that, let me know. We're happy to go one way or the other. But
Yeah.
it is a really cool experience when you can take something like that Apollo Federation demo and just remove a part of it and just go, hang on, it's still there. It still just works.
Yeah, it's wild.
It was really cool. Yeah.
Real quick, while we're talking about GraphQL Summit, I'm gonna drop a link in the chat. But GraphQL Summit is happening again in 2020, but remote. It's virtual. It's free. All you have to do is just register, and yeah, anyone can attend, which is really awesome. Yeah, but definitely check that out. Cool. Yeah.
Alrighty. So where are we with this script now? I think that's all the bits.
It looks good. This is starting to come back.
As long as we've got the functions in here, we should be okay, because it'll go and introspect the endpoint.
Yep.
And look at the queries in our where was it? It was in app. We had the one query.
Yeah, we have one query in app TSX. Yeah.
From that, it should go and look at the queries in our code base, introspect the schema at the remote endpoint, and then generate us some files, generate us some types in a directory called types. Fingers crossed. It may put the types directory.
Here we go. Yarn run gen.
Hang on, we are not compatible here yet, right? What have we got extra in here?
We missed something?
Where are you in package JSON? Sorry.
Oh,
I'm still hacking in there. We've got some extra bits. I didn't quite know where you were going with the extends React app and all the rest in there. What do we need?
Oh, gotcha.
Is that much, right? Is that right? Or should this even be? Where should this be? This gen thing?
Oh, that should be under scripts. That's where we want. Let me roll that back. On my end, it just did some really funky stuff. Just like deleted half of this. Hang on one second. So right now, so let me save this. Try and do a refresh.
My end maybe was not refreshed. How do I do a refresh on this file?
Try on the file system, refresh. I tried to refresh my Explorer. Let me know if that updated for you. Because what we have on my end is just a gen command under scripts.
My end looks wacky. So let me just have a look in this. It looks different to what it looks like in the Skype window. So let's
try it
and see what happens.
No.
Okay, so we couldn't find the right files, I think.
Yeah, no operations or fragments found to generate code 4. Includes source TSX.
Yep, we got the wrong files. That could be enough.
Almost. Let's see. It's a different error.
Yeah, we made progress.
Cannot use GraphQL object type query from another module or route. Ensure that there is only one instance of GraphQL in node modules directory.
Oh, have we done something naughty and pulled in two different versions of things?
I'm wondering if it's because of installing Apollo as a whole. Well, that's what you did, right?
Let me check what version I've got in my one that I did the other day.
Oh, I think it's my bad. I don't think I'm supposed to use this within a project, and it's supposed to be installed globally.
Apollo?
Yeah, I think the Apollo CLI is not supposed to be a dependency of the project. Because I installed GraphQL, and then Apollo CLI is probably using its own version of GraphQL, and that's probably causing that collision.
So what should we do? Should we just install Apollo globally, get rid of that and install it globally, and then just run the command on the command line? Is that the...
I think that's the most reasonable thing. So I'm going to leave the command in there just so we can copy paste it. But first, let me just see. Okay.
Yep, it looks like it should work.
Installing. Is why I wish I had like elevator music to play. Well, everyone on the stream is getting music. We're just not getting it. All right, cool. So boom.
You know where the music was? I hear the music with the
Oh
videos, and
yeah.
then there's no music. A bit of light background music.
Yep, yep. Cool. So now let's try this again, but I'm just going to copy this out.
See what happens. Live coding's one thing. Live getting the terminal to work properly is another.
No matches found includes.
We might need to get rid of that star in the middle, do we? Because we're only going one directory deep.
Let's see.
Or wrap it in brackets or something.
Oh, it could be.
On the,
Yeah, I think.
could be just.
Oops. Oops. Hang on. Wrap. Which part in brackets?
With the source. I mean, it's not in brackets in
Quotes.
quotation marks or something, or the source and then up to TSX, I think. Let's see. Hacking on the command lines, no fun. You don't get any
Oh.
context sense. Yeah, it worked. So now we have a types directory that should have introspected our dgraph instance, built some types, and now we can sort of, type safe way, start building our apps.
List to dos. Love it.
And so it's pulled all the types of those things out of the dgraph, introspecting the dgraph instance and looking at that query that you have in app.tsx.
Nice. Dr. Buckwild was liking my celebration. Yeah, I'm pretty animated. So, fun fact, it's late for me. I know it's like still even early for East Coast, but I normally go to bed at like 8:30, 9 o'clock. I just have gotten in the habit. I don't know why, but I chugged a lot of coffee before we did this stream. So, be prepared for a lot of animation. I'm sweating bullets
It's
over here
early
too.
for me, so I just had the morning coffee, so I'm still on the morning version.
Yeah, I'm a full day caffeine in. Cool. All right, so we got types. All right.
Right? So we should be able to then
Get a
which
little
way we
more
want to do this.
autocomplete now, right?
Yeah, we should be able to. So we've got a query that can get all of Michael's to-dos, so we should be able to put them in some sort of component and display them on the screen rather than just console logging them out.
I like it. Okay, so let's do this. So we'll do an unordered list. Sounds good to start. And then we will say data dots. We'll do one other thing. I think I'm gonna return early for an error, just so that by the time we get here, data is like has to be defined. But then we're gonna say this would be data get user to dos dot map. Sorry, were you saying something?
Yeah, that's
Oh, okay, yeah.
I was just saying, we're not really getting the types though, right? Because we have to type the use query or something, don't we, to get the types properly? But still, we'll be okay in the first instance here, I think.
What do we have to do to get the type? Oh, we have to actually put the.
That's my VS.
We have to put the type in. Where? You got it?
Because data will just be untyped at this point. Yeah, it's just any. So we'd have to do like a use query with the types in, wouldn't we? Like
that's
like
it.
up here.
That's it. Yeah.
Which.
Oh.
Let's see if we can just get it to work first, and then do. So that's the wrong way around to do it, though, isn't it?
No, let's
we
do the
have
types. Yeah,
first.
let's do the types. Yeah. Oh, oops, wrong spot.
Yeah.
All right, cool. So shaboop, and then we have to import the type from our types, right?
Yeah. The other way we could do it is with the query component, right? We'd just get the types straight out of it if we did a.
Here, yeah. Why don't you steer for a sec? Take it away.
What we do? Can we do this? Is what I did, and I'm not 100% sure whether this is the, 3.0. We could just. I'm just going to drop down into that unordered list bit. Could we just do it like that, and then?
Oh, you just want to use a query component? Yeah, that works as well. We can absolutely do that.
We should just get the types, as long as I don't make massive syntax errors. We should just get the types from that, right?
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah. Let me import it though. So this query get task, that's just like pasted in. That wasn't something that. Yeah. There we go.
So that much should be about and then do stuff, right?
Yeah.
Something along that line.
Yep. Something along that
Unless
lines. And
I
then we have to close
intake,
query.
import, gonna have to import what that thing. Oh, we don't have to call it. That's const query up there. Oops. I just clicked on execute query. Sorry.
And what'd
Don't
you
think that
click
did
on?
anything. In the VS Code window, the execute query thing on
Oh,
the const query.
that's
So I,
funny.
I don't know if that did anything your end. And did we imported all bits? Am I going to get? I'm not getting any. Uh,
Well, until all tasks
yeah,
is not going to be defined, right?
sorry, that should be whatever the type is
I
in
think it's
here over
list
here.
to dos, I would imagine.
Let me just check in global types. Oh, not global types. This types. List to dos.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is a user query in the end.
Ah.
Oh, that'll do.
Okay. It looks.
We'll
Yeah, yeah. Boom. So now, in theory, we should get some.
should be able to import this, right? Import it. Yes.
Yes. Did it work?
So we
It
should
did.
get.
Cool. Okay.
Where do we query from? Is that just coming from Apollo client now? Is that where that comes from?
Yeah. So that would just come out of Apollo client. Yep.
But it doesn't like it. Where does it come from?
Let me see. I thought the higher order components were still in there.
It comes from React components. That's where that comes from.
Oh, yeah. Those might not be the hooks might not be. We might have to install React Apollo.
Yep. And you need the beta version, I think, if we're going to do that. Let me just put them in and we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
What did I put in before? I put in both of these. I think that's what I needed. Let's have a look. Those two?
Ah, yeah, that makes sense.
Is that running? It doesn't look like it's running.
It
my
does
end.
not look like it's running, but it is now because I just hit enter.
What are we going to grab it from? Just from that.
Viable clan member saying TS generics inside JSX? Question, I guess.
What was that, sorry?
Viable clan member was asking if, like, essentially we're using TS generics inside of JSX, I guess. They're like saying, is that what we're doing?
I'm just doing whatever Apollo generates building for me for these to-dos, and then I think we can just use those types inside our query component, I think. And
yeah.
I'm hoping that all the map is going to build all the bits for me in the background.
Yeah. Okay. So I think we're good. It's the only thing it's saying is that it's just not really being used. It's saying error has implicitly has an any type. That can't be right.
Oh, is that? Oh, let's get rid of this bit.
Oh yeah, we definitely
We
got to
probably
get rid of that. Yep.
just leave it there for the moment. And then let's see what this has done for us. Am I getting IntelliSense here? I'm not really getting IntelliSense at my end. I just get loading. I might have to.
So one of the things that you can do.
Me.
Yeah, I just get loading
Yeah.
as well. I'm gonna try and close it out and open it back up. Let's see what happens.
Oh, it might be because I didn't have a.
Yeah. I mean, I took care of the squigglies. I mean, it looks right. Oh, maybe because it's on a commented line. Nope.
Okay. Okay.
All right. Let's see what we got here. So, okay. Yeah. So we're in.
Do the checking whether it's loading and checking whether there's an error and whatever.
Yep.
So let's see if we got. Did you get types for those? I didn't get anything on my IntelliSense. Like if you hover loading, do you get fun?
Where are my types? No, they're not showing up. I just get loading.
We've missed the magic somewhere.
Line 23 is what's up, in my opinion. Yeah. After query, saying the list to dos, this generic part.
We have imported this.
You have your app. Can we literally copy and paste kind of that code out?
I did.
Oh, that's what you did? So I just set it up wrong and broke everything.
The thing about mine is my package JSON still hasn't updated. How do I just refresh the whole file tree? Is that little thing up there?
Yeah, it should be the little circle refresh thing.
Okay, let's see what happens my end when I refresh. We could just do it without the types as well.
Yeah, I guess for the sake of moving, but I kind of wanted to see that. Oh, wait,
Yeah.
We're missing a... No, I don't think we are missing that. Why don't you have a package lock file? I don't know. That's a good question. Oh, because I use yarn. So yarn doesn't create a package lock. It would be under yarn.lock. This looks right. I'm not sure why the types aren't working.
So I don't know what's wrong with the share my end because my package JSON file is still old even though I've refreshed it.
So I have an idea. If you want, I can kill the collaboration and then we can...
I think the quickest option is we got the type. We were able to generate the types, but we had something before that was working. So we just backed up a little bit to what was working and then we can just do it without the types. That's probably the quickest.
I concur.
Rather than kind of futzing around with what's broken or something. Yeah, that's probably the quickest way.
I'm working on it. Well, I don't think it'll even let me go back that far, but that's fine because I can just do this. Boop. Goodbye. We've got that back, so all the rest is fine. We can get rid of this. We don't
brackets.
Want that. So we're good there. Okay, so we're back to working. We just won't have the types.
Yeah, that's okay.
Yeah.
We've obviously missed an import or done something silly. Someone will be on the chat going, "You idiots!"
Real quick, couple things that I just missed in the chat that I wanted to touch on. Dr. Buckwild never used GraphQL, know nothing about it, but they've been watching this for 30 plus minutes. Thank you. We love you. I'm glad that this is enjoyable for you. And then let's see what else. Maybe delete node modules. Yeah, that's always my go-to. But I think, and then is there an error? Yeah.
Turn it off and turn it on.
Exactly.
I think just to go to the point of putting them on the screen, let's just go from here and
yep.
It's not going to hurt us.
No, not at all.
And we generated the types. We can, that at least shows that kind of fun can happen.
Yeah. And I'm not very good with TypeScript yet. It's something that I've actually been working on quite a lot. But yeah, sometimes you need to reload the whole VS Code, try Command-Shift-P. Yeah, but that would restart the live share and restart everything else. Yeah, it would drop the collaboration. But you're right. We could definitely do that. But I think we're okay here. So I think let's push ahead and let's see what we get. So for each one.
Reach to do, what are we going to just put a list item in, right?
Yeah, we'll put a list item. And inside of that, I'm just going to do an H2 with to-do.description. Because that's that. And then for now, we'll just say whether or not it's completed. We won't touch on that, but then we'll come back and do our mutation. And set up support for that. I think. All right. So let's see. Oh, implicitly. It's because we're in TSX and it has implicit return type. But now, is that going to kill our app? Yeah, expected assignment or function call instead saw expression. Line 29. Oh, yeah, because I did not code this correctly.
something more like that. We may get in trouble for the types in the end anyway.
Yeah, we're gonna see. Yeah.
Well, let's just give it an any type
I
and
was
see
just
what
gonna
is
say.
it going to complain to do that?
Slap an any on it.
It's explicitly got an any type. All right, we should be. Oh, is it running?
Yeah, we should be running.
Except for the errors. Cannot read property get user of undefined. So we didn't run the query or something properly.
Oh, are we still checking for loading and error states? We are for loading. Are we console?
Checking for loading and returning?
Yeah, and then
so it on the console before, or is it still dumping it on the console?
Get user to do's certainly, and there's no data dot get user dot to do's data get user to do's dot map. Dear Lord.
Oh, don't delete what you had though. There we go. That should be better.
Code much?
It says with finger crossed. Yeah, it's late. That's late for you and early for me.
It really is. Yeah, we could just import the to-do type instead of slapping an any on it. At this point, we're just kind of like bypassing TypeScript just to get through. But yeah. So we could have done that. But yeah, cool. All right, we've got them. So now I do not see whether or not it's completed. Did I ever add that?
Oh, it came up on the screen though. You just had it in the. Oh yeah. So you got the list of things. There we go.
Yeah, I have the list, but I'm not seeing. Oh, because it's true or false. So it's not going to render. Anything. So what we have to do is say.
Put a question mark and put a string. Yeah.
Yeah, you got it.
And I think we set them all as not done, so we're kind of expecting them to be not done.
And
yeah.
we are. All right. So now we've got it. What font is that? The font in VS Code or the font in the browser? OG Jake. I'm going to guess you mean VS Code, but I'll wait. Okay. So
this thing you've got in VS Code with the colorful indents is really sweet.
Oh yeah, like rainbow indent. Yeah, this is one of my favorite extensions. So I won't get too far into this, but this might be useful to everyone. So I'm going to drop this in here. Boop. This has literally what I use for everything. So that's got the fonts, all of my extensions, the VS Code setup, theming, all the extensions that I use. Fonts, the font is Mona Lisa. That's the one that I'm using in the editor. And yeah, check out that post. Cool. It's got it all. Okay, so we've got this. So to me, it seems like the next step, aside from like stylistically cleaning it up, but what I would much rather do is.
It looks fun. It's great.
Yeah, it looks.
It's good. It's good.
Ship it. What I would like to do is let's make it so that we can toggle these whether or not they're completed. What do you think about that?
Yeah, so we can add a mutation. Should we jump into Insomnia and work out what our mutation should look like first, and then?
Yeah, absolutely.
I think so. If I think about it, in our list, right, we're going to have some sort of button or something.
Yep.
And we've got the ID of the to-do at that point.
Yep.
So we're going to basically write a mutation that's going to take like that ID and make it completed, or I guess we're going to pass in the completed or something, aren't we? So yeah, like that's a good idea. We're going to update it to do. The filter's not going to be whether it's completed or not. We're going to expect an ID in there, right? I think.
Yeah.
We're going to just do one at a time. Click the button on the first instance.
Yeah.
So that's an ID. We can filter them by ID. Yep.
And so then this would be equal to, we'll have to put in like a
list of values.
Yeah.
So let's make it a variable. That's a good idea.
So oops, this needs to be ID,
Line.
and then that is an ID.
ID type. Yep.
I mean, we could do a full
And then
input, but for simplicity's sake, I'm going to do just
it's a
two
bool, right?
properties.
Yeah.
Oops, again, I need the $sign,
Yep.
Boolean, and that's also going to be required. That makes sense, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's making sense to me. I'm just going to let you drive to see how far we get.
I love it. Okay, so we've got that. So now but interestingly enough,
Use your $signs though as well in the
Yep.
in the actual mutation
Boop.
in that filter. It takes a list of those, so just wrap that in square brackets, the $ID in the filter.
Got it.
It'll take a list of IDs.
Oh, because you could run it as a batch.
Yeah, so for example, in our app, we could have like a button up the top to mark them all completed or something, and it
Oh,
could
wow. That
fire in a
is
list of them or
so
something.
cool. Okay, all right. So let me hurry up with this because I might want to try that too.
How far are we going to get? I think we've got pretty much a stop coming up soon.
Yeah,
we might have to come back to.
We do. We'll see. All right. So this looks like what we would want to do, right?
Yeah, so let's just try it out with the query variables. So let's actually comment that out and we'll run the query and actually get an ID of a to-do.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Just to and get the add ID to the to-dos.
Sorry, my mouse is trackpad's acting funny. So now we've got an ID. Ooh, cool.
Their ID values. So now we could run the mutation with some query variables and just check that our mutation is good. So if you do like uncomment out the mutation and comment the get user thing, you should also get context sensitive help inside the query variables, I think.
Yeah, I absolutely should.
And then you should be able to do comma and it'll tell you can do completed. No, it's not helping.
Okay. That's weird. Normally it does. And we'll set it to true. Sounds good,
so
right?
We should be setting one of them to true, and then in that return, let's just make sure in the return from the mutation, let's get the ID and the description or something as well, just to make sure we set the right one. So we have learnt more Dgraph. We're going to mark that off as completed.
Nice. Let's do it. Oh, did I not run this? Huh.
There's some squiggly lines.
I don't see any squiggly lines.
All right.
Oh, that was weird.
So
Command Enter wasn't working.
And then something's taking a little bit of time.
Yeah, I think I broke
that's
it.
insomnia.
I definitely broke it, huh?
Did you break insomnia? There you go.
I didn't.
Seemed to work in the end.
Cool. All right. We got it.
Okay.
All right. So that works.
So now we've got one completed to do and one uncompleted to do. So I guess if we refreshed our app, we should see that in the app as well, shouldn't we?
I was just about to say that. And so if we go rubber completed. Okay.
Yay.
So this is working.
Cool.
This is working. So now what I'm going to do real quick is just for the UI part of this. Button on click, which we'll just leave for now.
That's what we're going to put in there. Yep.
Toggle completed.
Cool.
Easy enough. Yeah.
Yep.
And then in here we'll say we'll need our mutation.
So we'll need to copy the string in for that and all the rest from Insomnia.
Yep. And I would never just like call all this stuff mutation and query, but for brevity's sake for here, we don't have to get const mutation.
And in the end, we'd end up with a bunch of mutations anyway, wouldn't we? We'd maybe have a delete one and
for sure
one that updates text and all that kind of stuff anyway. So
absolutely.
We wouldn't.
So we can grab this, drop that in. If I can get my trackpad to work. All right, cool. But now one thing that does change is this.
We need new variable names. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess that. And yeah, these cannot be the same. be honest, I don't even know. So as long as because we're doing a mutation, as long as we return the ID, the cache should update. So I don't think we need this part really right now.
Magic of the
Apollo
yeah.
cache.
Yep. So we are returning the ID from that mutation, won't we?
Yep, we
I think we
certainly
did.
are. Yeah, so it should update those values. Okay, so let's see. So on click here, we're gonna say mutate, and then that is going to take our options, which is variables.
Variables, which is the ones we should be able to get from our to-do that we're mapping across, I think.
Yeah. And then
Yep.
for completed, that's going to be the opposite of to do completed.
Sort of what it currently is. So we should be able to flip it back and forward here
Exactly.
with
Yeah.
any luck.
And for
Yeah.
brevity's sake, I just made it toggle completed. And so I'm very curious to see what happens here. I mean, because that should be it, right?
Yeah.
That looks like all the
It
code.
just runs. Yeah. It's toggle completed. We
Error
may have to.
must be defined. What was not defined?
Where's that happening? Down inside.
Error must be defined. New Apollo error. Oh, but maybe
Oh, okay. So what have we got here?
variable ID. Oh, a query does not have ID. Our query does not.
Ah, yeah. So there was nothing to update in the cache, right? You
Yep.
didn't know what to look for.
Boom. Look at that.
Yes.
Boom.
Neat. There
Oh.
we go.
Ugh. Yeah, an ID really would help. Yeah. Awesome. You know, that's so cool. Look at that. You combine Dgraph, you combine Apollo, and look at how fast you're able to just whip that together. That's mind blowing.
Yeah, and we spend most of the time kind of talking about Dgraph and playing around Insomnia and stuff
Messing
and
around with
making
TypeScript.
mistakes in it.
Yeah.
But yeah, you can get from just your idea about a schema to like a running app, on top of Dgraph with, integrated with Apollo and the cache and all kinds of fun stuff just straight away, which is awesome.
Yeah. So you're right. So we're coming up. Yeah, it feels very amazing. So yeah, so we're coming up. We have a time limit, unfortunately. I'm like so into this. I could keep coding with this all day or night for whichever it is. But unfortunately, we don't have the time. So I would say this is probably like a good. Real quick, we have a question. Is Dgraph configurable to have performance optimization like batch queries, persisted query subscriptions, etc.? Maybe you could answer it at the end of live stream. Yeah, 24-hour stream. Let's go. Yeah, I would love to do that. But yeah, maybe you want to actually answer that question and add anything else you want to add about Dgraph. And I think for everyone who's watching and is super interested in this, if Michael's cool with this, like I would love to have you back whenever is most convenient from you. I'm good to go as early as like next week, so you just let me know. But I'm super excited to do a follow up. I would love to build out some functionality, handle the auth stuff. I feel like there's so much we didn't have a chance to touch on that I feel is.
So should I touch on the question first? Is Dgraph configurable to have performance optimizations like batch queries, persisted queries, subscriptions, etc.? Yeah, good question. So you can certainly ask, like in a query or a mutation, you can have multiple, like in any sort of GraphQL, you can ask for multiple queries in one operation and all that kind of stuff. There's at the moment, no persisted query option, so you can't like persist your query string server side or anything and then just ask for them by name. So that's not that's not a thing yet, but I mean it's another cool idea. Subscriptions actually works really, really nicely. So you can generate the API to include subscriptions. So in this sort of example, like we could do something like where we could change the schema so I could share some of my to-dos with you or something, and then whenever I edited my to-do, subscription would fire and on your
That's cool.
screen it
Right.
would
Right.
it would fire. So that
That chat
just
app
works.
would be a
Uh,
great example.
exactly. So you'd have like a channel or something, and everyone in the channel would be subscribed to the channel, or whatever it is. So,
Yeah.
so that would be cool. I'm going to drop one thing in the chat with you, so you can bring
Cool.
that up in a terminal. So we today just played around with a sort of local Dgraph instance, but we also have a beta version of a cloud product. So we're sort of in a
So
live beta stage.
so this is for the
So you can
browser,
just deploy,
correct? This is just
just in the browser. So you can deploy. So what we did
oops,
today was just
slash
spun up
GraphQL. I don't think I copied it all.
ah, cut and paste error. So slash GraphQL is our hosted offering.
Oh, cool.
And so you can do like to spin up a Dgraph instance in the cloud. So for example, for that demo I showed at the start with the little React version of the app, I just spun up a Dgraph using our cloud service, just deployed a little front end to Netlify, and we're away with an app that we can share and
That's
run.
cool.
So, and this comes with built-in auth and a whole bunch of other stuff. So
Oh,
if
wow.
you're interested, so we have a little bit of a social media thing going. So I have credits on this thing, and I can kind of gift them to people. So I might gift Kurt some credits, so you can log on
Ooh.
and run a cloud Dgraph or something,
Yes.
and then you can gift them on to other people, do
Very
whatever you like.
cool.
But if anyone else comes along here and wants to use this, just up from where you are, there's a register your interest button. So people can register there. Like even if you don't get an invite from someone else, you can still click on a button on this page and register your interest. So that's a cool thing we're doing at the moment. And if we did work on this app some more, we could deploy an instance on this and then deploy on Fly or something, and then people who are on the stream can chat or whatever. We could just kind of do it live if we felt like it.
Yeah, that's awesome. So that's a great idea. Yeah, if you're gonna if you give me some credits, reach out to me on Twitter. If you watch this stream, let me know. Reach out to me, just DM me and tell me what your favorite part of the stream was, and I will make sure you get some credits. That's awesome. And so real quick, I'm also noting something that just is catching my eye here real quick, which is the search by full text, which is like,
we didn't get it.
yeah.
So this has got there's a few extra annotations in that little example schema that we didn't get to. So we put like a search on the completed thing, so we could have searched for all the completed to-dos or all the not completed to-dos or whatever. But we also have all of these really cool other indexing things. So you can do it by date times, you can do it by integers or floats or whatever. And strings have a bunch of options. So you can do by full text search, which is like a Google style, search where you just so for things like what's that, like it's like a review. So a review is going to have like a body, a long comment, and you can do like get me all the reviews where somebody said this is amazing or whatever else. But you can also do searching by term. You can do searching by regular expressions. You can do there's a whole bunch of I think in the customer up there you can search their names by hashes.
You can search by to-do description would be a great use case for full text.
Yeah. So you could get me all the to-dos that are about the GraphQL streaming today or something like that.
Yeah, this is awesome. Okay, cool.
Tag them and search by ones with tags or whatever you like. So there's a whole bunch of search options, and then we build those into that GraphQL API you get. So you can do like at the initial part when you come into the query, you can go get me all the to-dos that look like this, or you can go get user, get Kurt, get his to-dos, but only get the to-dos that match some search term. So you can sort of do those searches deep into the graph and stuff as well. So there's a whole bunch of other things there, and there's built-in auth, and there's you can add custom logic so it can make a call out to another HTTP endpoint and all other sorts of stuff that's that runs in there, and subscriptions and a whole bunch of other things.
That is awesome. Yeah. Oh, cool. So LL Cool Cat just shared a link, which I guess covers a lot of the stuff that you can do with the GraphQL schema. So actually, let me go ahead and just crack that open super quick. Perfect. This is great. I'm going to be reading this. This is amazing.
So that's just deployed a new version of our docs today. So it's a little bit not pretty in the new version. We've just got to clean it up a bit, but
good.
It's got that's all we've got for the master branch there at the moment.
This is awesome. This is so cool. I just want to thank you so much for taking the time to come on and walk us through this. Dgraph is amazing. I'm blown away, simply blown away. I've worked with some other tools that like basically work from building the schema, and then they'll build out the back end infrastructure. And I think that where Dgraph shines for me, and what I like about it is that it's not building out a bunch of infrastructure and then having to map over these different parts of a system and glue them together. It's just, again, we're just directly talking to the database. And that is still very wild to me. And it just blows
Yeah,
my mind.
like I said, the way I kind of think about it is instead of laying GraphQL on top of something that's not a graph, which is kind of the one of the normal GraphQL
Yeah.
experiences, the way I think about it is you get a graph and then you can enhance that graph with other things, whether that's directives that Dgraph supports or extra custom logic or whatever else. You're kind of enhancing something that's already a graph, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
And that Apollo Federation thing that someone brought up before is another fits into the GraphQL ecosystem and you can do cool stuff with. I've
Yeah.
noticed on the video that every time I nod, I also bounce. That's a habit. when,
That's
when I'm not nodding, I'm
amazing.
pretty still. When I'm nodding, I'm bouncing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, cool. Yeah, so I mean, this is a good wrapping point. I think we've covered a lot. Again, Michael and I will get together offline and figure out when is the best time for us to get together again. I think that this was a lot of fun. If you want to be informed about when these streams are coming up and what streams we have, I just shared a link into the chat. This is just a Google Calendar, so you could just sign up to the Google Calendar, add it to your calendar, and always be informed of when we'll be streaming. One last time, thank you to everyone at Dgraph for building such an amazing product. Thank you, Michael, for coming on and showing me how to use it. And I look forward to doing more streams with you. I mean, this was such a blast. So much
Yeah,
fun.
thanks for having me. I'll definitely come back if you invite me back.
Oh, you're already invited, my friend. Already invited. This is so much fun. Cool. And with that, everybody, we're going to wrap it up. We're going to go ahead and cut the stream. Normally, I like to raid to other channels, but it's late. I got to get going. I really don't have the ability to go find someone to raid right now, but I do encourage you all to jump into another channel and or Twitch stream and see what's going on. One last time, thank you, Michael. And with that, we will bid you all adieu. I will see you later.